Hello, this is the Insurance Perspectives podcast presented by HawkSoft. And on today's show, we have Teresa Crane from the Crane Insurance Group and Kailyn Despotakis from Ascend. In this series on Ascend, we discuss how the Ascend platform is used by Crane Group Insurance to streamline their agency bill workflows, as well as support premium financing for Crane's commercial clients. We hope you enjoy the discussion and be sure to follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. This is part one of our series on Ascend. On today's show, we have Teresa.
Hi, Kenny. Great to be here.
Thanks for being here. And Kailyn.
Super excited to chat with you today, Kenny.
Awesome. Teresa will receive a full introduction in part two. As just a quick sneak peek to contextualize what she'll contribute to today's conversation, Teresa is an agency owner with over 22 years of experience in the insurance industry and works closely with Ascend at the agency. Kailyn is an account executive at Ascend and a graduate from the Ohio State and calls Columbus home, if I have my facts correct.
You do.
Perfect. I'm a huge fan of the Book Loft, and Columbus is probably my favorite place in Ohio.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, me too, but I might be a little biased.
I always have to resist my temptation just to yell out OH. I did not go to Ohio State. I just have way too many friends because of working in insurance that did or call Columbus home. If I didn't do all these shout outs at the beginning, I would have to dodge a bunch of texts. There's actually an interesting parallel in our work history that I caught, and fans of the show will know that before I started working at HawkSoft and entered the insurtech world, I was an English teacher. And so I noticed that after graduating from Ohio State, you spent time as an ESL, English as a second language teacher in Hanoi, Vietnam.
Yes, I did.
That's awesome. Cool. I think education plays a huge role in just conveying what technology does. So I think a lot of us kind of gravitate towards it.
Yeah, 100%. And I even think, as someone in sales, I like to take the approach of teaching in a way, just informing people of what Ascend does, really learning about their business and seeing, if our solution is correct. So the teaching English really translates well into my current position at Ascend.
That's awesome. Yeah. You just set me up with literally the perfect segue, because before we dive into our partner questions, I would love to give you the opportunity to do an elevator pitch for Ascend. What if someone's tuning in and they've never heard of your company before? What do they need to know?
Ascend has been around for a little bit over 3 years now. And what we are is essentially an all-in-one financial operations automation solution that has been purpose-built for insurance. And so our whole goal when I'm speaking to, retail agencies like Crane Group is to just give them a very simple and seamless process when it comes to billing, collections, and as well as accounting on the back end. So really just assisting them with those carrier payables and commission splits to the agency.
Fantastic. I remember encountering Ascend when you guys were brand new, and kind of that value proposition of simplifying accounting. I was like, yes, let's do it. I started at HawkSoft in our product support team, and every single person dreads the accounting call, especially agency bill, because what a complex system. So what you guys bring to agencies, I think, is super valuable.
Awesome.
I'm going to dive. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to dive into our partner questions now. These are the questions that we ask all of the partners who appear on the podcast so that our listeners can have a foundation to compare and contrast while they're trying to make technology decisions. We start with a pretty important one. We feel it's very important to know someone's individual story and a company's individual story so that we can understand not only what workflow benefits a company might bring to us, but also what type of shared values or shared mission we might have that might bond us together more. So, Kailyn, I'd love to know, why does your company exist? Or if we put it in a little different way, what is the reason for Ascend participating in the independent agency channel?
I think Ascend exists for a lot of different reasons, but really our whole mission and our purpose here is to simplify insurance. At a
Mm,
high level, it is one of, if not the most important industries that's out there. But along with that, it is, a little bit outdated when it comes to certain aspects like billing, collections, accounting. And when we've been talking to these retail agencies, we understand that, you know, they're not necessarily thinking about the best ways to collect payment from their insured. What they're focused on is providing the best service and the best insurance possible for their clients, for their community. And so that's really where Ascend wants to step in. And
mhm,
so what we're doing is helping those retail agencies simplify not only the billing and collections aspect, but also really just take that operational burden off of their plates when it comes to managing the back end of the carrier payables. We really just want to give them the time back in their day to
mhm.
continue providing the best service to their insureds and let us focus on, but also, give them the ability to very easily manage the payments portion
Mhm.
of their agency.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Um, so if we look back 3 years, what was maybe the genesis of Ascend? Like, why did they see, um, what brought this issue to light for the company, and then like what? Because there's a lot of really smart people. Like, I love working with you guys' engineering team. The Ascend team is a lot of very bright young talent in the insurtech space. And so I'm interested to also kind of look at like what galvanized you all together to kind of tackle this problem.
Yeah, and I actually love answering this question because the background story of Ascend is one that's pretty fun and really interesting. Um, Kenny, I'm sure you know our two co-founders, Andrew and Praveen. They have actually previously started a insurtech together that around, 4 or so years ago was acquired by an MGA.
Hmm.
And so, as the story goes, Praveen and Andrew joined the team. And when they really started thinking about and working in the financial portion of this MGA,
Mm-hmm.
they realized what a huge disconnect there was between retail agencies and MGAs,
Hmm.
whether it came to, collecting payments, having to reconcile accounts, trying to figure out, hey, this payment came in from, Teresa at Crane Group. Which policy do we need to apply these funds to? And so when they really started thinking about it from the retail agency side, what they realized was agency bill is even a bigger burden for retail agencies because they have to figure out, collecting the payments from the insured, getting them set up on finance agreements, getting signatures on those finance agreements. And then once the payment is actually collected by the agency, there's still the back end work of withholding your commission and funding the MGAs. And so they branched off on their own again. They started Ascend, and I was lucky enough to join the team about 2 years ago, and
Hmm.
I have not looked back. So that's a little bit of
Yeah.
background about
Yeah.
Ascend.
No, and I really appreciate that, because I think it's really important, to understand that foundation of like coming out of the agency space. There's some really key differences between a general agency and a retail agency, but at the same time, they're boots on the ground, working in insurance, and yeah, encountering a problem, have the expertise on how to address it, and putting a team together to do so. I think it's one of my favorite things about the industry we work in. I feel like the successful companies, they have that organic, authentic start in the agency space.
Mhm.
So then my next question for you would be, if you had to pick one aspect of Ascend that draws in and keeps customers with you, what would that be? Why?
And that is a little bit of a loaded question, I will say, Kenny. Um, it's difficult for me to say the one aspect of the business that I think our agency partners stay for.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the, main value props that we bring to these agencies is the holistic approach to agency bill. And so, what I'll usually find, talking to these independent agencies all across the country is in their current state, they're utilizing a lot of different vendors to handle those different functions of the agency bill process. And so, what we're trying to do, slash, what we've been doing at Ascend, is offering this consolidated solution. And so some agencies might say, excuse me, that they stay for the simplification of the billing and collections aspect, and others might say that they stay for, the payable automation on the back end and the reduction of time that they have to spend on those accounting functions. We've got Teresa on here, who's been working with us for a few years, so I'd love to, hear what she has to say about what keeps her at Ascend.
Absolutely.
Well, I definitely agree with Kailyn on all those points. For us, the biggest thing was saving that time. It would be hours that we would have. We had to get the payment, do the billing, chase the client because we have to wait for the manual check because we didn't have an online payment option. And so when we discovered Ascend and we said, wait a minute, you can do all of that. You can finance it. You can send it to the client. They can click on submit payment. And then you're going to pay me my commission and the carrier. Okay, then. Yeah, just like that's what we were like, okay, you just like resolved a lot of issues for us very quickly. And I mean, that's definitely one of the reasons we say if we're talking the software end, right? So the actual mechanics of the company Ascend. But another reason that we've stayed and when we pick vendors, and this is one of the ones, is the people. Honestly, I mean, if we get support all the time, if there's any issues that we've had or even some ideas, they're very open to that and talking to us and taking those ideas and actually putting them into play. So we've really enjoyed that partnership. It's not just the company, it's also the people who we work with have been very, very good. Kailyn is a perfect example of that. She's been very helpful.
Well, thank you. I know we feel the same about working with you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I do. I love that because I think holistic, it can mean just on the, does it check all the function boxes? But I think, does it check the function boxes, and do I enjoy the people I have to interact with to access that? And I think that's really important. Yeah, that's definitely the thing that made Ascend stand out to me when I started having conversations around Ascend joining our partner program was, oh, you like cover the whole thing, the whole spectrum, because you get in the financial services space, some unitaskers. I think that's kind of going away a little bit as platforms diversify, but you'd have like one service for a very specific thing, whereas Ascend came and said, well, actually, the complexity of trust accounting and agency bill and premium finance, there's a through line through it, and we can touch every aspect of it. So I think that it's definitely something I've seen resonate with the market.
And even now, you know, Ascend continues to grow. Like, we're not just stopping at agency bill. We've, within the past year, really started focusing on MGAs and wholesalers as well, giving them the ability to offer, agency bill and financing, as well as what feels like a direct build product to their insureds. And so we're really just, every day taking that feedback from our agency partners like Crane Group and working on the Ascend product, continuing to make it as useful as we possibly can for everyone that we work with.
Absolutely. We always have this fun little left turn in the middle of our questions because really there's no better place to put it. You either start with it on a weird note or you end with it on an even weirder note. Data ownership is a very key focus for the advocacy that HawkSoft does in our industry, as well as something that we hear about from our independent agency partners all the time. Who owns the data? Who reaps the benefit from the effort put into cultivating it? HawkSoft's position is that the agency owns their data. We're just stewards of it. And so, Kailyn, put you on the hot seat. How does Ascend approach data ownership with regards to your customers?
Yeah, and what I would say is we approach data ownership the exact same way that HawkSoft does. But what we really want to do is give these agencies a very secure and transparent way to manage all of their data. And so when it comes to security, we offer / enable these insurance agencies to collect these payments from their insureds in a very secure way. Whereas previously, they may have been taking payments over the phone, or insureds are texting them pictures of their credit cards. And so from that side of it, we really want to give them the ability to collect payments very securely. And then from a data ownership perspective, everything that Ascend, collects when it comes to payments that have been made from insureds, if someone comes into overdue status, amount of emails we've sent over to them, it is all stored within the Ascend system. And Teresa and her team have 24/7 access into anything that they want to see from us. And we just want to provide that transparency and provide the data to Crane Group, for example, so they can, maybe look at it and decide, oh, we want to do something differently. We've seen a lot of our insureds choose to finance. Maybe let's focus on financing these next couple months.
And I know because you operate in the financial services area, you're held to an extremely high data security standards that you've always been very transparent with HawkSoft about. And so I appreciate that perspective and that answer because it's all insurtechs by and large interact with a level of PII, personal identifiable information, that is dangerous, kind of scary on the tech side, scary on the agency side to be handling. And everything I've seen from Ascend, you guys operate at the highest standard, not only because it is required of you as a financial institution, but because it's the right way to approach it.
Yeah, and we're SOC 2 compliant. And as an employee, I'm always taking those exams to make sure we're staying compliant. So I can assure you all, we're doing everything we can to stay compliant because we really care.
Teresa, you had a pretty visceral reaction to the suggestion that a customer might send you a photograph of their credit card. Is that something you've ever happened?
Many times we'd be like, I'm not sure if this is a good plan. Or they want us to send us their ACH over email. And it's just like, it's just not secure,
Yeah.
And I mean, there was a point where even like, well, do we put it in HawkSoft and keep it like on a sort of tag? But again, then who has access to that? So yes, the security was always like, we did not want to get into that kind of situation.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So when she said that, I was like, oh
yeah. We established the Insurance Perspectives podcast as a dialogue between technology providers and insurance professionals. We see it as this two-way street where allies in the space can have some honest discussions. And so we our last two questions are a pair. And we start maybe with the medicine and we'll end with the dessert. But Kailyn, you've been in this space for about 2 years, working with agencies at Ascend. I would love to know, from your perspective, what is the hardest part of working with insurance agencies?
Interesting question, Kenny. Um, and obviously, when I'm speaking about this hardest part, I'm not talking about Crane Group because they've been the best and
Won't take it
easiest
personally.
partner, yeah, to work with. Um, and I really think the hardest part of working with insurance agencies and potentially any other, functioning business out there is change management.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing on any new vendor or making updates or changes to operational processes that in some instances have been in place for, decades. For example, it's very difficult to, get everyone on the team on board and really have them understand, okay, in short term, this might be a bit of a headache. It's not going to be perfect, but in the end, this is going to solve so many issues for you. And really just managing, making these changes. Even at Ascend today, we update our vendors, consistently. And a lot of the times, I feel myself pushing back on changes. And then I have to think and realize, Kailyn, you're in sales. This person is doing exactly what you do every single day. And I think sometimes it feels when you're making these changes that you have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward, but really just handling every individual and making sure they feel comfortable with the changes that are being made is the hardest part.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, Teresa, how do you feel? Do you think that's an issue that comes up with your peers, or they struggle with
Oh, yes.
change?
Absolutely. We have anytime you bring something new that you're changing, everybody has a little bit of a freak out moment. You have to kind of, guide them through it gently and explain what the end result. So we kind of start with the end result and work our way backwards. That's kind of what we've learned doing. It's like, look, in the end, this is what it's going to do for you. There's going to be a little bit of, growing pains. There's going to be a few hiccups. We're going to have some issues. There's nothing, like she said, is perfect. Things are going
Yeah.
to happen, but in the long run, the time you're going to save and the fact that the company is willing to work with you through those issues, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, why haven't I had this the whole time I've been on this?
Yeah.
And we have experienced that over and over here. So we get it.
Yeah, change is hard. And I
Change
think
is
that's
hard.
it's one of those constants in life that you're always going to have to wrestle with. And so it's probably not unique to the insurance space, but I will definitely note that insurance is a very old business. And the ways of doing that business have been changing gradually over time, but usually not at like an aggressive pace. It's usually the last industry around a tech corner. And so that change can be a little extra difficult.
Yes.
Now,
Absolutely.
if we think about the kind of narrative arc of this conversation, if that wasn't really a tough conversation, because I think it's a lot of things that people can agree on, but we'll end on an upswing. That's where we like to end. And so, Kailyn, from your experience, what is the best part of working with insurance agencies?
This is a question I also love to answer. And I think first and foremost, the relationships that we're able to build with these teams like Crane Group.
Mhm.
I'm the type of person, I love networking. I love meeting new people. And what I very quickly realized when I, became a part of the insurance industry is how important relationships are. It feels like everyone knows everyone, and we slash, everyone in the insurance agency are all here to help each other.
Mm-hmm.
They may be competition, but really they want to share ideas. They want to share what's working for them. And so I love that I have the ability to build relationships not only with our agency partners, but people like HawkSoft, any HawkSoft agencies, because I'm lucky enough to go to a lot of our conferences. And when it comes to the relationships that Ascend builds with our agency partners, my, kind of favorite thing about what we're doing here is the honest and open feedback that we really take to heart from our agency partners. It's so, I guess fulfilling is the right word to use. It's so fulfilling when, for example, Teresa gives me feedback, maybe 3 months ago, maybe 5 months ago. Hey, Kailyn, this isn't really working. What if you did this? I can share it with our product team. And then down the road, 3 months from that conversation, I have the ability to reach back out to Teresa and say, hey, we heard your feedback. We actually went ahead and updated the product so it now can handle your request. I mean, that's the most fulfilling part of this job to me, is just being able to be a part of creating solutions for our agency partners and feeling more of an extension of teams as opposed to just another vendor that's helping them run their business.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree more. I think I say this probably too much on this podcast. People probably think that I never have good days at work. If I'm having a bad day at work, I call an agency. I'll just find one. I'll be like, what problem can I solve? I'm going to call an agency. It sucks sometimes when you're just like, oh, I just got to toss this over the fence and like hope something happens. But when you can like go knock on the door and be like, hey, we built this, we figured it out. That is always fun. Kind of brings us to the end of part one. I always like to end with a little bridging question to entice people to tune in next week to part two, where we're going to explore how the Crane Group actually uses Ascend day to day. And so, my formal role at HawkSoft, I'm the director of partner integrations. I had the pleasure of working directly with the team at Ascend on integration. And, Ascend was actually our very first API partner in the financial services space. We told them, hey, our API is not built for this. And the engineering team at Ascend was like, don't worry, we can figure this out. And they did, to their credit. I sincerely mean that they are some of the smartest that work in the industry. So, Kailyn, from your perspective, or Teresa, from your perspective, do you have anything you wanted to add about how Ascend works with HawkSoft?
So for us, all our vendors that we'd like to be part of is vendors that integrate with HawkSoft. Obviously, that makes things much easier. So when we started with Ascend, the thing that we loved was, okay, so you guys are going to integrate with each other and you get the information from HawkSoft for the client. So we don't have to fill everything out again, do double work, which for us was key because that just saves a lot of keystrokes. And so when we saw that, we were like, that's great. So that part of the integration was great. There was, and what Kailyn was speaking about when they improve things, when we first started, Ascend was still relatively new. And one of the things that they were having issues with agency bill and direct bill policies were all pulling in at once as opposed to separately. There was an issue there. And we talked to them about it. And they said, well, there was a workaround. And then, a few months later, they're like, guess what? We fixed it. And we're like, oh, and it was great. It was such a great thing to have. So that alone tells you, how much they're going to work with you to get that to where it's going to work well for your agency and for everything that we do. So yeah, that integration was key for us. They're able to communicate everything. Everything goes back and forth. It's seamless. That's what we need. And like an extension of us, an extension of HawkSoft. We don't feel like it's just a plug and play. It's part of everything that's happening.
Excellent. Anything you
I
want
feel like I need to offer Teresa a job here now. Join our team.
I may come.
No, I don't think I could have said it any better. Myself, Teresa works in Ascend and in HawkSoft every single day, and I think she did a great job explaining the integration and the benefits of it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, that is a great little tidbit to leave our audience with to encourage them to tune in next week for part two. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the video description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you.